Global Order. I'm Hindol Sengupta. I'm absolutely thrilled that Air Marshal Ravi Kapoor has joined me in conversation today. The Air Marshal and I had a long conversation a few days ago. And indeed, literally within days, it seems like I was just telling the Air Marshal as we began this conversation that it seems like we were talking in a different lifetime, in a different era. The whole world seems to have changed with all the things that have happened, the terrible conflict between India and Pakistan, what has been done by the United States, and many, many other things. So, therefore, it's a perfect moment to have a conversation with the Air Marshal because so much of what happened in this conflict was about India's air defense systems. And indeed, the Air Marshal kindly left a comment on one of the essays we had done in Global Order on whether India should join Russia's efforts to build the S-500 air defense system. And the conversation triggered off from there. Therefore, I welcome the Air Marshal in this conversation with me. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Hindol. Good morning. And it's been a really, really crazy time, and I'm very excited about it.
Yes, absolutely, sir. Let me begin by asking you, sir, one of the questions that many people are asking. Obviously, India's indigenously built Akash air defense system performed really well. If you were to compare how much role did this Akash system play and how much role did the S-400, the very highly advanced air defense system that we purchased from Russia, which at that time the Americans put a lot of pressure on us not to buy, how much role did that play? If you could begin with that question.
Good morning, viewers. It's a great pleasure to be in conversation with Hindol all the time. I would first start by saying that this Operation Sindoor is a perfect example of India adopting the anti-access area denial philosophy. And if you see how it has worked in our favor, is by the fact that Pakistan, which prides in its air force to deliver the retaliation, could not do so, and we could strike deep inside Pakistan without even going into their airspace. And second, very, very clear message it brings out is the importance of net-centric ability in warfighting. And why has it worked against Pakistan? The basic reason why it worked against Pakistan is because Pakistan has imported all the components of its air defense system and tried to integrate it. Whereas we have most of the components of our air defense system which are indigenous. And those indigenous components allow because you see, today every equipment is software oriented and is software dependent. And hence, the source codes are the most important. What is on the chip is what is most important. It is not the chip, but what is on the chip that is most important. And that is where I think the difference lies between India and Pakistan. Now, coming to your question of Akash and S-400. First, the S-400. A lot of us would have seen that briefing by ISPR where that Air Force officer tried to show how they planned the mission or a defensive counter air or air defense on the night of 6/7 or the morning of 6/7. And what he showed was where they had positioned their Saab REL. If you remember, that Saab was way inside Pakistan. Now, what did it do to them? What it did was, why was it positioned there? It was positioned because of the S-400. If it was anywhere closer than 200 kilometers, it would have been taken off. So it has gone way inside. What it does is, it gives only about 100 kilometers coverage within India. And because of which there is a little bit of gap. So that is a deterrence played by the S-400. Now, I do not know as of now whether there was any S-400 kill on a Pakistani fighter aircraft which was doing air defense task or missions, which has not come out in the media, because I think what the DG Air Ops intended to say in his press conference was that we have shot down, or we have been able to take down some high-tech aircraft. So high-tech aircraft would mean F-16s, JF-17 Block 3, and the J-10CEs. And if these are taken out by S-400, that would be a big, big achievement and a big dent and a deterrence of a deterrence value in any future conflict that takes place. So the S-400 would be in that kind of category, not really into the close-in category of anything less than, say, 70, 80 kilometers, because that is where the MR-SAM comes. 400, about 360 kilometers to about 180 kilometers, 80 to 100 kilometers is the envelope that would go with about, I think, S-400. And then the MR-SAM would take on, and then as we come closer, the Akash would take on. So if we now try and analyze what kind of offensive missions were flown by the Pakistanis, most of their offensive missions were undertaken by two things. One was their UCAVs and other drones, and the second was their missiles. Now, when you see these weapon systems, especially the drones, the UCAVs, the weapons that the UCAVs carry, the Pakistani UCAVs, the Bayraktars or the Akinchis or even the CH-4 or the Chinese ones that they have, those UCAVs have to fly at about, say, 10 to about 25,000 feet. They are fairly big. They do not have a very long range of weapons, and so they have to come a little closer. They have to come into the Indian airspace. And now when that happens, they have a fairly good radar signature to be taken down by Akash system. I'm just talking about, you would not, I mean, any good air defense commander would not want to waste his S-400 on a drone, which is traveling at, say, 150 kilometers, 200 kilometers per hour. So that's how clearly the targets are picked up and they are then tackled. And so in this case, all these UCAVs and some of their long-range weapons, if they have used, would have been taken out by the Akash system. And if there was any high-tech aircraft within the Pakistani airspace, that would have been taken off by the S-400.
Let me ask you a question. And now it seems fairly clear that perhaps when the conflict began on the first day itself, perhaps as the two air forces matched each other, there could have been a slight edge to the Pakistanis, but as the entire conflict proceeded, and today now we know India had unprecedented dominance, especially in the airstrikes that were made on major air bases across Pakistan. Now, how did that swing happen? And if indeed in the first go India lost an aircraft or two, how do you think this would have panned out, in your opinion?
This whole thing, Pakistan, if we see, having analyzed Pakistan to some extent, I would say that their basic thing has been revolving around countering the Indian capability. That is, when we bought Rafales, they bought the J-10Cs. Basically, the aim was to match the Meteor, and hence the fact is that in a melee like this, when there are so many aircraft involved, first of all, I would like to believe what the Indian defense services say, what the Indian official record of the whole thing is, which was very clear that we have not lost any pilot, and the fact that we have not crossed into the Pakistani airspace. And so the other thing that I see is that Pakistan has indeed fired the PL-15s. It is not one; it has been multiple firing of PL-15s, and in that case, it is quite possible that if there has been any loss of Indian aircraft, I would believe it should not be a rafale primarily because of the kind of EW systems spectra that it has as a EW system, which is highly refined, and it would give a clear-cut warning of any impending missile attack. However, there could be some other aircraft which may not have as evolved EW suite, and that could be possible, but I'm not going to take a guess on that. But uh, uh, in such melees, when so many aeroplanes are involved and are stacked up at many altitudes, one person or one missile getting through. In spite of what I would like to commend is the kind of tactics that were adopted by the Indian Air Force. I mean, this is a measure of our training. Firing multiple PL-15s and I don't know whether other missiles, how many other missiles were fired, because generally the focus is on PL-15 because that's the latest. I do not know whether they fired AMRAAMs, whether they fired how many PL-10s or SD-12s that they fired. But I think they would have fired enough number. And the tactics ensured that most majority of our aircraft remained safe from.
Let's talk about the second part of the question that I asked. You know, the tide seemed to turn as the conflict expanded, and there are now all these very clear satellite images showing how India was able to really break through any semblance of Pakistani air defense and bomb a whole range of air bases across Pakistan. And that entire list, 11 air bases in total, were bombed by India. Talk to us a little bit about why the Pakistani air defenses failed in this spectacular manner and why India was able to show clear dominance as the conflict expanded.
I think the best part of Operation Sindoor, in my opinion, was very meticulous planning. Having gone through, studied Pakistan in detail, one analyzes that their basic aim is to defend Pakistan from any attack, and thereafter retaliate. And so, if we see the sequence of events, in the initial part, a lot of their air defenses were taken, and most of their air defenses were taken out by weapons which could not be picked up by them. And so, what we were able to do was that we could target those air defenses and neutralize them in a very methodical manner to create the gaps or the voids where we wanted. And consequently, the weapons that got used for attacks in the deeper parts like Jacobabad or Bolari or Sargodha were primarily standoff weapons, standoff long range precision strike using scalp or BrahMos, and the targets which are closer by were with probably hammer. And so, if you see what I would believe, I have not gone through any kind of int assessment of how Pakistan placed their air defenses, but I'm quite certain that they placed the LY-80s with a range of about 40 to 70 kilometers ahead, and they placed their HQ-9s behind. And the bases, and if you see, they do not have that kind of density of air defense that we need. And so, for what they do tend to do is the terminal defenses for their major bases are very, very dense. That we need not, take off, because the way BrahMos goes, it is very difficult for a terminal air defense to take out BrahMos because of the kind of speed it goes at 2.8 to 3.5 Mach. And the two factors were that with a kind of certain amount of electronic warfare that we could undertake, we were able to jam certain air defenses. We could take down some of them using drones, and what we saw in some of the videos, the loitering munitions. And thereafter, we created a kind of gaps in their air defense where we could take down their air bases. And the fact that these weapons went and hit where they were intended to hit proves that our weapons have met the combat requirements that were envisaged.
I also ask you, there's of course been so much euphoria among the Pakistanis and indeed among the Chinese about the J-10 aircraft, about the PL-15 rockets, and so on and so forth. But what we're not talking about is how the kind of air defenses that the Chinese gave the Pakistanis actually did not function well at all. You mentioned the HQ-9. Many people have commented on this, saying that these turned out to be entirely ineffective against an Indian attack. So we're not talking about that at all. And do you think you should be talking about this?
You see, like in my initial comments, I said that Pakistan imports a lot of things. It imports almost everything in terms of electronics. It does not produce anything. So most of its equipment is imported from either Turkey, China, and in fact some of the Western countries. If you see, one of their surface-to-air missiles is from Italy. Some of their some of their equipment is even from some other European countries. And now to integrate a Chinese equipment into an architecture which has a backbone which is probably European and things like that is a big task. And so I think if I just by my personal assessment, there would be gaps, inherently gaps, where some of these systems would work in a standalone mode and not in a kind of a network-centric mode. While they have a clear kind of picture in terms of the radars and all are integrated. But in terms of whether they can integrate the weapon systems and all, I have my basic doubts. So that is one. And second thing is that HQ9 failed. Probably one is because this HQ9 system is perhaps a export model which does not have a full range of 250 kilometers. It could be about 100 to 150 kilometers. And now when you have 100 to 150 kilometers placed well inside your own territory, you cannot threaten anybody who's across. And so the only thing that leaves it becomes kind of a terminal air defense for a very high value targets, probably an airfield like Noor Khan, Sargodha, Rafiki, and things like that, which they would like to defend by a string of those things in the second. But it exposed the capability of these weapon systems against our precision guided munition, especially BrahMos.
Let's talk a little bit also about the drones, because you mentioned drones in your answer. There's this whole thing for a long time. There's been this whole thing about the kind of drones that Turkey makes and how swarm drones and drone warfare is becoming critical. Now, a lot of people worried, including us in Global Order, that does India have the kind of defenses to really, defend itself against something like a swarm drone attack and so on and so forth. And I remember talking to Air Chief Marshal Arup Raha about this and many others. Now, this battle proved, sir, that India indeed has not only adequate defenses against this kind of drone attack, but also has these defenses indigenously built. Would you agree that this is something that we should be happy about?
Yes and no. Why I'm saying yes and no is
Sure.
We confronted Pakistan. We confronted a country which is importing all its systems. It may have manufactured some drones because I believe that Pakistan has set up a certain amount of drone manufacturing capability. but I'm not very sure that what is the maturity of that drone manufacturing capability, and whether they are able to build the kind of loitering munitions and the kind of um, you know drones that could go through. What also is very important to understand is that uh, a lot of drones amongst these 500, 600 drones that were covered in each wave were spread out over 26 to 30 targets. And those targets were spread out. Okay, majority of those drones were not armed drones. They were just quadcopters. And so they are, I would believe, basically for surveillance or purely from the point of view of trying to open up our air defenses so that the Pakistanis can monitor where our air defenses are located. So I would still not, while there were a lot of drones, the good part is that we have focused on integrating the legacy systems, not only integrating legacy system, first is upgrading legacy systems into kind of digital systems and then integrating, because integrating very, very long, old legacy systems like a Pichora is very difficult. But we have been able to improve them, and then which allows them to be networked. We have also been able to network the Army and Air Force, which allowed us to reduce any duplicity that would have happened if this had taken place about 3-5 years back. So that is the biggest advantage, and that IACCS and Akash are now talking to each other. So once you have that, you have a very good command and control system. You have a layered air defense, and when you have a layered air defense with multiple counter drone options, that means you have both a hard kill and a soft kill option. So most of these quadcopters would be taken down by a soft kill option. There would be some of them which would be taken down by the hard kill option. Whether that hard kill option is, if you see that Bhagwastra, which has micro missile ammunition, which you have a Zen technology, small little kinetic kill rounds. And in fact, I was extremely happy to hear from DG Aerox, who said that our Garuds acting as snipers could shoot down some of these drones. And so you see the kind of diversity that we have brought into this counter drone grid is what made it resilient.
Now
Now
let's
we
come.
come to now we
Sorry,
come
go
to
on, sir. Yes.
yeah, the second part.
Hmm.
There my concern lies. I think this should not become our template, because the adversary on the other side, I think the biggest advantage we have gained is we have shown Pakistan its place in the military dynamics in the South Asian region. But I am really concerned, I would say, that China would have learned huge number of lessons and they will dissect it thoroughly. And that is my I would say that yes, we should be very proud of what we have done, but I think this should become a start point for the next set of operations. That is where the challenge will lie, because if we deal with China ever, the scale will not be the same. The kind of electronic warfare will not be the same. The kind of cyber warfare will not be the same. The kind of space capability that China has will not be the same. And that is the grid. That is what was perhaps the multi-domain operations was our biggest advantage in this Operation Sindoor. And that is something that needs to be built up as we go along.
Now, let me ask you the last question and the last part that I wanted to discuss with you, which is that there is now a lot of buzz once again that perhaps India should participate with Russia to build the S-500, which is an even more advanced version of air defense system compared to what the S-400 is. And this offer supposedly has been on the table for a while. India hasn't taken it yet, and now there is a lot of buzz that perhaps India should take it. You, of course, gave a very interesting, pathway in this when your comment and in the global order platform. Talk to us a little bit about how you think this through.
S500, there is one system which has been, I think, manufactured and deployed by the Russians to take care of the Kerch Bridge and that area. Uh, and it is supposed to be a very, very good system. The latest, it is almost 2 decades ahead of S400. So I'm sure there is a lot of improvement that is there over S400. But I just did a very, very cursory, brief check. I think it cost some $4 billion a piece. Now, I will not purely go by the cost of a system, but I would rather like to think about the S500 from the perspective of what it does. The basic couple of things that are above the S400 is it has a much it has a 1.5 times the engagement envelope. It has simultaneously it can track 10 targets. Its response time is faster. Uh, it can take off longer range ballistic missiles. It has a hit to kill like S400. It has got a counter stealth capability, and that uh, the it can play two major roles. That is anti-ballistic missile role and a counter space role. That is an anti-satellite. Now, uh, why do we need it? Is the thing that we should analyze. That would depend on what are our threats. Now, when we see both our neighbors or our potential, one is the now we have seen is a 100% adversary, and the other one is a potential adversary. Has been an adversary and it remains a potential adversary and a bigger threat. Now, if we see the doctrines and the equipment of both these countries, when we see Pakistan, it does not have a intercontinental ballistic missile. What it has a intermediate range ballistic missile. It does not need an intercontinental. When we see China, uh, we see that China has intercontinental ballistic missile, but all of them are nuclear. They do not have an intercontinental ballistic missile with a conventional capability. All their conventional capable ballistic missiles are intermediate range ballistic missiles. Now, when you have an intermediate range ballistic missile, it can be taken off by S-400. We do not need a S-500 for that. Now we come to the anti-satellite system. So, do we want just an anti-ballistic missile capability to come to us with S-500? I do not think so. Because it doesn't fit into our threat matrix and in our, concept of operation if I would be thinking about concept of operation. Next is, what is the kind of area it can defend? How many of it we would like to buy? Now, for the anti-ballistic missile threat that we are talking about, we already have ordered 5 S-400 systems. They would take care of a certain area. Now we are developing Kusha, the long-range surface-to-air missile system. I think the first launch is planned next year, and in 2028, the first system should be ready. Now, what are the components of this? Basically, it's a long-range radar. It is and the integration into your overall integrated air command and control system. Now, I would believe that the way we have integrated Akash, the MR-SAM, and other systems into our ISCCS, I would believe Kusha would be a much better system, much easier to integrate. And like I said, that most systems today are software oriented. And when you say we will co-produce it, the example I give of is C295. We are co-producing it, but what is the technology transfer? There's hardly any technology transfer. Will Russia share the source code? Is the question. So these systems will have to be used for the next 30, 40 years. And if we have to use these for next 30, 40 years, you see the character of war is changing so rapidly. I mean, I can't even believe what is going to come up after another 20 years. Today we are talking about sixth generation fighter aircraft, and we are talking about close combat aircraft and manned unmanned teaming and saturating with stealth. So, in my opinion, if we see the threat, if we see the area which it is going to effectively look after, and the targets that we would like it to be allocated, I would rather go for Kusha, in spite of it getting delayed, if at all. But the fact is that the way our missile technology has evolved, I think today we are manufacturing way better propellants, which are more efficient, which have much better burn rate, which are more compact. And that is how we are looking at, Astra 1, 2, 3, that you are packing in much more into the Astra 2 with the same size and fit, because you can't have four types of missiles being loaded on an aeroplane. And same thing should happen, that in future, we should be able to change these missiles from, let's say, 350 kilometers to 400 kilometers. And we have those missiles. Today, we have the ballistic missile defense. The ballistic missile defense has got both AAD and PAD. And so we have the capability of endo and exo atmospheric kill. So if we have those components, the only component missing, I think, is the radar. And I think with the kind of BMD system that we have and the kind of radar development that we are looking at, if we put it on a mission mode, we should be able to develop a good 2000 kilometer, if not 1500 kilometer range radar. And then upscale it to probably a 2000 kilometer range radar. So when we have all the components which are with us in some manner, the issue now is only of integration and adaptation. And then the scale of production can be matched up. And finally, the last point that I want to make is, when we are talking about counter space or anti-satellite, I had written an article also some time back on this issue, that we need to build our counter space capability. Now, when we build our counter space capabilities, we will have those radars. Now, when we have those radars, now we have radars, we have missiles, we have everything. We are integrating it easily into our ISCCS. And then you have a full system, which is pan-India. So the counter space must work in space, which is much less expensive. And so I would believe just to buy S-500 for a counter space capability, in my opinion, is not the best solution. And for an anti-ballistic missile capability, once again, not the best solution, because we already have an anti-ballistic missile capability in S-400, which will be replicated in Kusha. So that is the way I look at it, and the kind of success this operation has given, and the kind of lessons I think we should learn from this operation, would be to look at the capabilities against a more formidable adversary and not against Pakistan. I think Pakistan should be out of our calculation then.
Right, right. Well, thank you very much, Air Marshal, for taking me through all of these questions. No doubt in coming days, months, and years, we will ask more deeper and richer questions about what really happened in this conflict and how we go forward. I completely agree with you that in India's real threat matrix, so to speak, Pakistan is irrelevant. We face a much more powerful, more potent adversary, and that's where our focus should be. And indeed, hopefully India's defense manufacturing capabilities, which are already rapidly growing, will show us new ideas and innovations in the days and months to come. Thanks very much for your time. No doubt we'll have a chance to talk to you soon again as all of these stories develop. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Hindol. It was Dr. Sengupta. It was a pleasure, and I think these are the things that will guide the future trajectory of Indian defense industry, and so the strategies which our forces should adopt. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for your time.